Welcome to the Happy Mindset Show, episode number 2. Today's episode is entitled Believe in the Process. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by Qazi from Clever Programmer. I first came across Qazi at the start of this year, and what impressed me most about him was his energy and passion for teaching and just for helping other people. And as a result of that, I decided to sign up as a student with Clever Programmer, and I took the opportunity to get one-to-one mentoring with Qazi. So, Qazi, for anybody who doesn't know who you are yet and what you do, could you give us a brief introduction to this?
Yeah, for sure. So I was a college student, then I kind of stopped going to college. Because I started Clever Programmer, and Clever Programmer is all about teaching people how to code and also the soft skills that are around it. It's the negotiation skills that, a lot of the times are not taught even in schools. So that's why you have a lot of students who go through colleges, come out with a lot of loan, $50,000, $100,000 worth of loans, and yet they can't find a job when they come out. So Clever Programmer is about like cutting the fat and teaching you the practical technical skills so you can get started and then get started actually making money with coding. And now, we started last year. We had 0 students and I had 0 subscribers on my YouTube channel. And to fast forward 1 year, almost exactly 1 year actually, and we have 50,000 students enrolled in our programs at Clever Programmer, and we have almost 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And what started off with just what my initial dream was, dreams of a young college student, turned into like now a company. We have about 5 or 6 people working, and it's been an amazing journey, and that's what Clever Programmer is about, helping people learn the practical skills so they can get jobs with software development.
Cool. Actually, when I'm hearing you there, how did you start off? How did you get over the procrastination and get over the, I suppose, not believing in yourself at some stage? I'm presuming you didn't believe in yourself to the extent that you believe in yourself now. So how did you get the momentum going from day one? What did it look like looking back on it now to you?
To be honest, the number one thing was what I was surrounded by. And one of the things that was really important for me to understand was that none of my thoughts are my own. And all of our thoughts are actually not our own. So if you're watching this video, whatever you're thinking right now, you might think it's your own and unique, but it's not. It's really just affected by whatever you're around. So if you're around a lot of people who are kind of negative or whatever, you're going to be having those types of thoughts. And same way, if you're around positive, happy, upbeat people, you're going to have those thoughts. So for me, that was important to realize because I was just in this loop of go to school, go to work, come back home, maybe watch something, and then go to sleep, and then rinse and repeat. And then I started reading books, and I realized that everybody who became a millionaire, everybody who became a billionaire, everybody who became famous, everybody who became a leader, a public speaker, influencer, great at relationships, all of those people had to break out of these norms, these normal cycles that everybody, just finds acceptable, and like these are your norms essentially. And what I found out was that those were the people I was surrounded by, everybody who kind of thought in a regular, normal way. And as long as that happened, everything in your life would just be average, So first I had to make the decision that in certain areas of my life, I didn't want to be average anymore. That started with, in business, I didn't want to be average. In, starting a YouTube channel, I didn't want to be average. And then what I started doing was listening to books and changing my habits. So those were the key things for me that got me started. So, if do you want me to expound on that a little bit more?
Yeah, just the habits thing there. How did you start off? My experience of habits is that it builds on each other. You don't just kind of go straight in trying to fix everything. You just build a little habit and it builds momentum. So what was your experience with that, with habits and changing it around?
Yeah. So the main thing that was for me was when I would go to college, I had to wake up at a certain time, like 7, 8 a.m. and get on the train. And the first habit that I started with, and that was, I think, the most valuable, was that free time I had, instead of music, I started listening to Audible. And Audible, for those of you who don't know, it's like books but audio version, because it's really hard for me to just sit there and read the book, because it takes I feel like I'm not doing anything else but just reading the book. Whereas when I'm on Audible, when I was driving to the train station, I was listening to the book. When I was walking to the train before going to college, I was listening to my audiobook. And then when I was on the train, I would be listening to it. And when I would get off the train and onto the bus, I would still be listening to it. So it's a lot of listening to the book and kind of immersing myself. So from the higher picture perspective, it was replacing music with Audible. That was what was amazing. And then the second habit that I changed was when I would be eating food, instead of watching, shows like Rick and Morty or Family Guy or House of Cards, Game of Thrones, all I did was that during those 30 minutes that I would be eating, I would watch tutorials. So that was something that also helped me become the top 1% in the world for chess. That was something that helped me become better at jiu-jitsu, like learning to fight. That was something I did to become better at coding. And essentially, I almost felt like I didn't even have to spend any extra time, so to speak. It was just like these small habits, and those brought the biggest returns.
Yeah, very good. How important is being a generalist? Like you've mentioned, you used to be number one in chess, and you're on about jiu-jitsu, and you seem to have a very kind of broad spectrum of interests. How important is being a generalist to become a really good specialist? Because for me, I see you as a specialist in coding and Python in particular. But I also know you know a lot of other languages. But for you, how important is having a general big picture view on things to become a really good specialist?
Yeah. There was a book I was reading, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and in that book, his rich dad says being a specialist is for, I don't know, I forgot what the term he used, but it's supposed to be like condescending or derogatory to the specialist. And essentially he says that you should be a little bit of a generalist. So, because it's very important to know the things that you don't know yet. Yeah. Because here's the thing, like, let's say you're being a specialist, right? You'll only be improving very linearly and incrementally. But sometimes when you look at a completely new technique or a new way of thinking, or you go in some completely different direction, you might explode explosively. So, for example, you could be an Instagram specialist, but then you start making YouTube videos and you get like millions of viewers on YouTube versus Instagram. So, it's like you get that explosive growth without you kind of even knowing that was possible. So I think that it's important to be a specialist, but I don't think that, if you go too deep within something, it's kind of like the law of diminishing returns, so to speak. Yeah. So I think at some point you have to broaden your horizons and check out what other possibilities are out there that you might not have known of, and you could really get that explosive growth.
Cool. And do you find
Yeah, like I'm going to expound on that just a little bit more. Like, for example, I would be coding, right? So let's say something like just programming. I'd be sitting there coding all day for 18 hours. But then what I started doing was I got into lifting and health. And I would spend a lot of time at the gym, so I didn't even have that much time to code. So I went from like coding for, let's say, 18 or 15 hours a day to like 10 hours or 8 hours. But in that 8 to 10 hours, I was actually more productive and produced better results and learned a lot more because of lifting, working out. So that's kind of like one aspect of broadening your horizons and how they can help you even in the things you're supposed to be specializing in, but they kind of help you from the peripheral.
Yeah. It gives you a break and it gives you more balance. That's been my experience.
Exactly. It even helped me more than just spending more time doing coding problems,
And I would imagine in your line of work, you're an entrepreneur, you've got a new business. How do you deal with facing the unknown? Because it's inevitable when you're innovating all the time, when you're trying new things. How do you deal with that? How do you embrace that and accept that?
Yep. So the difference between somebody who's an entrepreneur and somebody who just follows the normal path, like elementary school, high school, college, job, promotion, and then you die. Somebody who follows that path versus somebody who goes on a completely new path, the only difference between the two and somebody who starts a business is that their tolerance to ambiguity. That's really what it comes down to. How much can you stand the unknown? Because, it's scary. Like when I'm spending time making content and it takes me, like I spend, let's say 1 hour of just speaking fast. I speak fast. So in my videos where I'm coding, I'm giving so much knowledge and so much value, and I make an hour-long video. And then as soon as I'm done, I'm about to edit it, and I find out that I forgot to hit record on my audio.
Yeah.
And then I've already come back. I just got back from school and work, and it was exhausting. And then I do this, and this is what happens. And I got to do it again. And I have 0 followers at the time, 0 subscribers. Like, I don't know if it's going to turn into anything. I don't even know if I'm going to make money off of it. And it's super scary. So, but it's like, how much of that can you tolerate? And that's what will determine what will make you successful. Because before Clever Programmer got successful, and to everybody it looks like, oh, it was like an overnight success. I mean, maybe. But also, there were other businesses that I started that failed. Like one example is Chesstastic, which was my chess business I started. And hopefully, if you're watching this, I still have the domain name. So if you go on chesstastic.com, it's spelled CHESSTASTIC.com, my website is still up. And I would be literally spending I was 16 at that time, 16 or 17, and I was trying to start this company. And I would just be calling libraries all day, just left and right. Hey, this is Qazi from Chesstastic. I would love to start a chess program, for students from 6 to 10 years old. And every phone call was just like, sorry, no, sorry, no, sorry, no. And it took hundreds of those calls till one day we landed a program for Chesstastic in a school. And since I couldn't just do this alone, it was really hard to get the right sources for where to call, because a lot of schools also had already had programs there, or didn't even have like any extracurricular activities for younger kids. I had to actually learn computer programming. That's where I started learning computer programming, because what I did was programmatically go through a list of schools and get the ones that had extracurricular activities, didn't already have a chess program. And basically I brought all of those on like a Google spreadsheet with all their phone numbers, and then I sorted by distance and how far they were from my house. So
that's how you got into programming. I didn't actually know that about you. That so it came from practical need that you wanted to become more efficient in finding people for Chesstastic.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember I went to a computer programmer in those days. I hired him because I couldn't program this on my own. And I was pushing the programming capabilities of Google Spreadsheets, because Google Spreadsheet, you can code in it too. But I was pushing those to the max, and it couldn't do it anymore. So I'm like, okay, I need to hire a programmer. And mind you, at this point, I hadn't landed any schools yet, any work yet. So we had made $0 profit from this. And I paid that programmer $400 to write a script like this for me. And I remember I was working with it, and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Oh my God. Like, I was just getting so excited. And he's like, what? Like, this is normal. Like, he's just typing it up. And he's like, it's not a big deal. But for me, it was like, wow, you can do this with code. It's like the most intelligent human being on the planet is by your side at all times for free. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that? So when that happened, you have to understand like the level of tolerance it takes as somebody who's not even making that much money, who's young, and I'm spending so much time into my Chesstastic business, making YouTube videos that weren't even getting that many views, building a website, taking the risk to call so many schools and hire a programmer for $400. And then we ended up getting our first client, which, who paid us $1,200. And so we made the money back later. Same thing when I was starting my Clever Programmer business. I didn't have any money, and I was taking out loans to freaking get my iMac so I can record video for you guys and make them high quality. Without even knowing I was going to get any money on my return, I bought lights, professional lights. My brother, his name is Qazi. He like edits videos for Netflix and stuff, and he's really good at what he does. So I remember asking him, hey, what kind of light should I get? What kind of equipment should I get? And he was telling me that, and I was paying, buying those like essentially on loans. So again, more risk and more ambiguity. Like, I don't know. And then eventually, it started picking up at some point. Like Justastic failed after like a year of hard work, working with a team and everything. But then for Clever Programmer, worked out well.
So how did you deal with Justastic failing? Did you look at it from a point of view of what did I learn here and move forward, or did it actually hurt, or was it a mixture of both?
Oh, I absolutely loved the whole experience. Absolutely loved it. I don't even understand when people are like, I had other people around me and they'd be like, well, you know what happened with your last business, so why don't you just relax and hang out with us? And I was just like, what? Like, are you kidding me? I learned skills that a CEO, when they're getting trained, training companies have to pay like millions of dollars to train these people to teach them these skills. Essentially, in my mind, I was like becoming a millionaire. Like, I put monetary value in my head to everything just to make it tangible. So for example, I'll be hanging out with somebody who has a lot of knowledge about things, and when I'm hanging out with them and learning from them, I'm thinking, holy crap, somebody like this who's in this position would be charging $500 to $1,000 an hour for this information during, let's say, a lesson or a meeting, and I'm getting to hang out with them and learn all this. So why shouldn't I spend more time with them? It's essentially by spending 5 hours with them, I've made $5,000. Like, I'm rich as hell.
So what is your view on money? Like, from what I'm getting from listening to you, it seems like you're approaching things from like it's an adventure, and you don't seem to have as much fear around money and paying things and seeing the value to people and mentors and all this kind of stuff and real life experience. So what is your kind of view on money, and as well, how important are mentors in the process, and even paying a mentor to get valuable information? How do you approach these things? How do you look at it?
Money is, for me, it was kind of like this play toy. And the reason is because I never really had a normal job. Like, I never had a 9-to-5 ever, and I never will. And there was a point in my life when I was about 16 or 17, something like that, and I was going to either go to, or maybe 15, I can't remember, but I was either going to go the route of, what my family always started off with, which was like getting a security job, or getting a chess job, but the chess job was more like hourly and like more like freelancing. Yep. And the pay difference was the chess job paid me $35 an hour, whereas the other job paid me like $8 an hour or $8.25 an hour, but it was full time. And I remember going the chess job route, and even that job was kind of like entrepreneurial. Like, you never know what classes you're going to get. You actually have to work really hard to land other schools for the company so you can actually teach at those schools. And even when you're running the class, it's like, I thought of it like public speaking. So I was getting the chance to public speak.
Did you have a fear of public speaking at any stage, or is that something you had to get over, or was that just something you didn't think of?
I still have fear of public speaking, but I know like I'm more when I start speaking, I lose the fear. Yeah. I kind of know what makes me lose the fear, which is like when I start talking and moving, that helps me lose the fear. But yeah, it's not that bad anymore. We'll see when I'm in front of a crowd, that will be a little bit different. Yeah. But I think I'll be okay. But yeah, it's hard to handle kids who are like 5 to 10 years old. They're brutal. They won't listen to you. Like, you have to be authoritative, and you have to show them that you can, and you have to navigate through a lot of weird, funky social situations with younger kids. Some of them just don't listen and they don't care. They're like human beings, but without any politeness or political correctness. So it's like you're dealing with either like really amazing or really like evil little human beings who have no fear. And so once you get good at dealing with that, you get good at dealing with a lot of difficult situations and public speaking situations. And then you had another question that I wanted to answer.
The mentors, the mentors?
Yeah.
How important are they to you? And how important are they?
Yeah. So okay. So the money thing that we were talking about earlier, money was always like this. I want to finish that off and then jump off to onto the mentor question.
Yep.
But how I always saw money was this like really dynamic thing. And it was basically an exchange of value that was happening. So like, let's say I was teaching you a lesson, and I'm charging you $50, $100 an hour. Or if you figured out a way to hang out with me, essentially you're making $100 an hour every freaking hour without doing any work.
Yeah.
So you're becoming really rich. But people just think of money in this like super static way. Like you get money and you just collect it and you just save it up, and that's the only thing they know as money. And how do you get it? You work a 9-to-5 job and you just keep stashing this thing away.
Yeah.
Or you could hang out with really valuable people who could give you lots of freaking amazing valuable things that would cost you $10,000 or $20,000 to get by yourself. Like there are people who charge you $5,000 or $10,000 for one consultation. Yeah. Now imagine you get to hang out with those people. You're essentially making $5,000 to $10,000 all the time.
Sounds like a creative way to look at money. And one thing that I'm thinking of now, because a few years ago I was kind of thinking, how do I find these mentors? And it's going to be so hard. But how did you, looking back, and how did you come across these mentors? How did they actually naturally come into your life as you started moving towards things?
Money. I used money. What I did is instead of just stashing money like just big tower and sitting on it, what I did instead was all the money that I got. Let's say that I got money for chess. People were paying me $50 an hour, $35 an hour to do chess, and it's not just for an hour. I mean, it's mostly 3-4 hours because drive time there, coming back. But what I did is all the money that I got, then let's say I wanted to learn a skill of table tennis or coding. I hired a mentor for coding, and I paid them $35 or $50 an hour.
So it's kind of like a system starting up there.
It was like 1 hour of my chess skill got me 1 hour of coding skill.
Yep.
And then what I wanted to do was get clients where I was charging more money. So then if I got to charge $100 an hour to a client, essentially I was getting 2 hours of a good programmer's time.
Yeah.
For 1 hour of my time. And also if I got a good programmer at a cheaper price, like let's say $30, $40 an hour, essentially for 1 hour of my time, I was getting 2 to 3 hours of somebody else's time now. And so people a lot of the times they'll be like, oh, why should I pay a lot of money? Let me just try to find the cheapest person possible. But they forget that it's actually less valuable to you, because if you get somebody for $8 to $10, like they're not going to be that great at their skill, and you're losing like 2 to 3 hours of your time learning something that would have taken 15 minutes from somebody who's really good.
So you're valuing your time over money, pretty much.
Exactly, yeah. So instead of asking how could I hire somebody for really cheap, think to yourself, how can I make more money so I can hire a more valuable person? Like that's really what it is. And then you get your skills a lot faster in a shorter period of time.
Exactly.
And money. Yep. And last thing I want to say, end it off that one with is money is just one way to hire a mentor. That's what I was doing earlier. Now I'm becoming much better with just social skills, and I'm trying to put myself in situations where I'm always either uncomfortable or challenged or feel intimidated, and that's how I'm now connecting with really valuable people. Like, even in LA, that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm connecting with people who are either making a lot of money or who are really successful and famous. And now I'm learning those skills like that. That's how I'm acquiring mentors now. So either use money or use social skills.
Perfect. So let's get over to the technical skills now. So if I want to learn a new skill, one thing I've seen you do is talk about reverse engineering it. So you look at the end goal and you work backwards. Could you explain that in the context of learning a coding programming language like Python, for example, just for the listeners?
What do you mean by reverse engineering?
So say, for example, well, what I did when I was working with you is that I wanted to learn Python. We had a project, we picked Flask, and then I looked at Flask and I broke it down into, well, you've got the front end and the back end. For the front end, I'll have Bootstrap.
Okay.
So I went forward to go back.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah. Okay. So here's how I think of learning. And I think the academic system has it completely in a dumb and unnatural way, which I disagree with, which is, okay, you want to learn soccer for your first time? Okay, let's do this. Come to my class, and then I'm going to go on my white chalkboard, and then I'm going to write down notes and theory and history about soccer for like the first few weeks. And then the next week, we go to kick the soccer ball and actually play with it. What? Why? No, it's not going to make any sense to you if you try to theoretically learn how to play soccer. You're not going to improve. You have to play with soccer ball first. Then if you learn about it, it's very relevant and everything makes sense. So I think with learning, what I try to do with coding, when I'm teaching somebody coding, I don't want to just start you off with bitwise operators and like weird esoteric knowledge that is only helpful for itself. I want to start you off with, let's say, something complicated, like a full website. We make the entire website. Now you know, holy crap, like you can make a website with coding, and oh my God, this is real, this is tangible. You're excited, and you've gone to play with it. So everything makes sense in context now. Now what I do is now I take you and teach you bitwise operators and the really boring stuff. And guess what? The boring stuff is not boring anymore, because everything you're learning now, you're like, oh, and I could use this to add this to my website, or I could use this to add to this part of the code and it'll work. So everything is in context, not boring, and it's relevant, and you learn a lot faster like this. So so reverse engineer the way that you learn. Play, build, learn. I call it my 80-15-5 instead of 80-20. 80% of the time should be spent playing with something if you want to learn it, like just naturally. Think about how animals learn to run, to walk, to hunt. 15% of the time should be spent actually trying to build something meaningful with it, and 5% of the time should be spent just boring, dry learning through a textbook or just watching a video passively. Perfect.
It's actually, now when you're talking about it, the first thing I can remember when I did your beginner's course in Python was the turtle module. And I can remember kind of when I saw it first, I was like, this is incredible. I could do this after a few days. And that's where I really went like, I can do this now. So that was a huge thing for me.
I mean, it's you getting immediate feedback too with the turtle, because visually things are happening. Whereas most courses will have things where it's just like some quantitative, you have to get this math formula right. And half the time you don't even know whether you got the right result or the wrong result. Yeah. But visually you can see what's happening, and so it leads you in the right direction.
The other thing actually I do like about you too is that you recommend other courses and that actually supplement the knowledge. Like you recommended courses in Udacity and Coursera and other platforms which kind of supplement as I move along. So it's not just all action and stuff. There is some theory that's supplementing when I can understand it from the context. That's
right.
Kind of what I like. Another thing is, I suppose, how important is, like, from Clever Programmer, there's a community there, there's students there. How important are other students and being in an environment where everybody's facing in the same direction, everybody wants to learn a new skill? How important is that, and how do I find that? If I feel like I'm in an area where nobody else is interested in programming, how do I get over that? How do I find these people?
Yeah, oh my God, it's so helpful. Like if you learn something by yourself, something that would take you 15 days to learn, let's say, or 12 days to learn by yourself, if you're around people, you'll learn that same thing in like 2 days, maybe faster. Because so how you can actually get that, where you can have those people around you, is like I was at home and I would be learning this, and I realized that it's going to be really slow if I just learn this by myself, so I want to learn this with people. And what I did is I got access to a co-working space. I'm not sure if people who are watching this know what it is, and if you don't know what it is, co-working spaces are just like these places where you can pay $100, $200 a month, and essentially everybody just goes to work there. So some of these people are like professionals that maybe they're professional coders, maybe they're professional video editors, whatever. They all go to this one space to work. and you can just go there and work. And so you'll find a lot of people who do coding there, and you can learn from them. And some of these are going to mentor you. That's how I found my first true mentor. His name is Nick. And I'm not so much in touch with him now. I'm probably going to call him soon after this, maybe, now that I remember. But he was the reason I was able to learn programming so fast, because he saw me and he took me under his wing. And I met him at a place called PS1 in Chicago, and it's a co-working space. You can find spaces for even cheaper than $100 a month. But yeah, co-working spaces are great. And if you don't have the money for that, meetup.com. It's free, man. It's free.
That's
like,
good.
use it. Use those things. Go to those events. They put events there. You can go for free. And also, you can host your own meetup. I have my own meetup for Clever Programmer, and I was getting people to my personal meetup. And I got some clients that way as well.
Yeah, no, I use Meetup quite a bit too. That is a good recommendation. Now that you say it, actually, there's a co-working space that just opened up in Rap Mines there recently that I saw, and I didn't know that the term, it was co-working spaces.
Yeah.
I suppose the other thing is that I hear you talk about systems a lot, and could you explain, like, how would I develop a learning system? Is it something I can create straight away, or is it something that develops over time?
Okay, so you want to be a little bit more specific with what you're asking? I want to make sure that I answer specifically.
Yeah, like, I suppose I want to learn Python programming. I'm starting off beginner level. I've done the beginner's course. I want to take it farther, but I also want to start developing a system so it makes it easier for me to keep doing it consistently every day, and like have a little path carved out. But I don't really know how to set up a system, or I don't really even know what a system means properly yet.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a more general rule for this. I think your viewers will also find very valuable. It's the same thing that you have with willpower and motivation. And here's one example. So willpower, it's really hard to get that all the time. And if you have your brain making decisions all the time, you're going to get exhausted, and you're going to make the easier decision. Okay, let's say you're trying to diet and you keep having to make the decision to not eat cake. You're going to get exhausted. You're going to eat that damn cake. Now, on the other hand, let's say there's no cake at the house, so you don't even have to make the decision yes or no. That's better. That's a system for getting healthier. Just don't have that food in your house. You don't even give yourself that option. Same thing with willpower and motivation. Willpower is kind of like the energy you need to get the door moving and opening, and a system is like putting a doorknob once that door is open, and now that door just stays opened. Okay, so let's say in the start you had to use willpower and a lot of energy to get start coding. Okay, you had to learn a lot about it. You had to make sure that it was the right thing for you. You had to make sure that you weren't too dumb to learn it. And once you start making progress in it, that one day you decide to actually commit. Now that's you pushing and opening the door, right? The door is opening. Now what you have to do is put a doorknob in there, because if you just keep holding it, you're going to get tired and the door is going to close at some point. Yep. So now doorknob is building a system in place. And that system for you could be scheduling it, where you have it in your calendar that you're going to be coding this time block. So it's not even a choice. Like, you just have to be doing it. But let's say you don't have that discipline yet. You need accountability. So the other system you could put in place is go to meetup.com, and for the next few weeks, just book out the damn events in advance. So they're already in your calendar. They're already booked out. And you're going to be going there and coding with them. They have coding hours, and they just have free working hours, and you can go there and just code during that time. Or book out hire once a week. You can do hourly session with a mentor online, and even good mentor will cost you something like $50 an hour, and you could do one session a week. That's $200 a month. It's not that much. Just freaking sell one thing on eBay every month extra, and you get that $200. Or put in a few extra hours at work, and now you have 1 hour of mentoring every day already in your schedule. You have to show up for it because you've paid for it. And that's another trick to hold yourself accountable by paying for something. So yeah, those are the tools you can use and the systems you can build to make sure that that door is open and that doorknob is always there.
Perfect. For another thing that I think that you would have experienced would be compound learning. A lot of people, we know about compounding in finance, but I've also realized there's compounding is applicable to learning, and stuff starts building on top of each other, and you've got points of references that you learned in other fields. Could you just speak a little bit about that? Kind of what's been your experience in the acceleration curve for learning new things, because you've already learned things that are similar and you've got strong reference points to learn a new thing from?
This is what I feel like the reason why for me it's better to code a lot at one point, like spend a lot of time doing that one thing rather than a little bit of time every day. Because what happens with learning is that once it starts to click, you start learning super fast. Like let's say that you just started off in chess and you have no idea how anything moves. You have no idea how the rules work. Learning is very tough. Nothing makes sense. If you even watch other people playing, you're not going to be learning. It just hurts your head.
Yeah.
But once, let's say you get to a certain point where you go to your first tournament, or maybe you just learn how to play, how the pieces move and everything. Now, when other people are doing things, you're like, oh, that's that trick they're using. Oh, now I get what's happening. So it's essentially like once you have that initial framework, you start learning really fast. And the better you are in something, the faster you learn it and improve more. So, when you're trying to pick up a skill, you want to get to that level where it's deep. Then when you start learning fast, don't get frustrated in the start when you can't learn. Expect to not be able to learn in the start. A lot of people will start picking up a skill like playing pool and right in their first game when they lose. I'm talking about pool like snooker. And when they lose, they'll get really frustrated and they're like, oh, I suck. But once you lose like 50 games or 20, 30 games, that's when you'll hit a point where you'll start learning fast. And that's when you'll actually start improving super fast. You just have to have that patience and go through that failure in the start, and then you hit that sweet spot and you go.
Perfect. So your view of failure is quite a bit different to the conventional sense, is it so?
Dude, I love failure. I absolutely love failure. If you don't, like let's say you go to the gym and you're lifting like 5-pound dumbbells, of course you're never failing, but you're never improving. You'll go home looking the same every time. So if you're failing, when you're at the gym, for example, if you're failing, that's how you know that that's the weight you have to go to. You have to work your way to. I don't know why people see failure as so bad. Honestly, if I don't fail at something, I don't even want to do it because I'm like, that's all there is to it. There's no depth to this thing. So yeah, enjoy failure. Use failure as your beacon to where you need to go. It's like your GPS. Failure and fear is your GPS to life.
Cool. I suppose it's the path to growth too. It's growth is that, in my opinion, growth is what we're searching for, and failure is a part of growth, and that's pretty much it. So where you are now, what's the current vision for Clever Programmer moving forward, and what's the next thing that's coming up agenda?
Some of the new things I want to do now is like do public speaking events for Clever Programmer, where I'm meeting people in real life in different countries and different cities. I don't even care if I get 2 people to show up at a certain spot. Like, I want to go out there and like physically meet Clever Programmer fans or just new people who are trying to learn, because the difference that it makes being live is so much more than just even seeing video. And I want to try to do that and help as many people as I can, help myself in the process too. Like, I'm learning more than even you guys, in my videos when I'm speaking them. That's why I like teaching, because you learn so much. And to be honest, like, I'm focusing less on actually the technical programming side, because there's so many learning opportunities. Because what I'm realizing more and more is that it's not the technical things that are stopping people. It's that behavior change to start learning coding, programming, to make a decision to do something, to take action. Like, those are the things that are stopping people. I want to be specific more to the realm of computer programming. So, not just general motivation. Like, I want to motivate you guys to do coding, become software developers. But like, I want to help people aim higher than just a job. Like, I met this one friend who's making almost $250,000, and he's about to work at Snapchat now. He's worked at Google, and he's a software developer. So I want to help people and tell them that it's not just 6 figures is not your barrier as a software developer. You can even make more money and then also that you can start your own company as a software developer. You know, so I want to teach people programming. Then later, I want to teach you how to maybe scale a freelancing agency. That's one of the things I did in college. I got so many clients for software development that I hired people who were high quality people, and I basically was a middleman and just managed them. And they did some of the software development, and I was making money essentially just being at college. So there are, you know, first you start off as a software developer, then you can have your own freelancing agency if you want, or run your own business. And that's kind of the things that I want to teach people, where I see the future of Clever Programmer going. And I'm honestly really excited for it. I even want to do boot camps with students where, you know, they fly out and we do like a boot camp with a group of students live, you know, just immersive, like 2 to 3 days, 10 hours a day. You know, the whole life is about coding for those 2 or 3 days. So yeah, there are a lot of big things that I want to do moving forward. Yeah. Sounds
great. What came up there now actually is, what's your opinion on bootcamps and the conventional computer science degree? What way do you see things now? Do we need to go do them, or what's happening?
I would say boot camps are better than. I mean, it's always tough, but boot camps I prefer more than a college degree. Now, I know there will be somebody who'll be like, but college degree is 4 years long and boot camp is 3 months long. Well, take the boot camp and then still keep learning. Don't stop learning. You know, just because a school system or a teacher is not teaching you doesn't mean you stop learning. Yeah. Also, another important point I want to make is college or coding boot camp is just one source of learning. So always have multiple sources of learning. Like, be learning by watching videos, be learning by reading books, be learning by building projects, and then be learning from a coding boot camp and be learning from a college. So between college and coding boot camp, I prefer boot camp because it's so immersive. But just remember that after those 3 months, still keep learning moving forward. And boot camp teaches you relevant skills. It's always like up to date most of the times. And they teach you how to get a job right away, whereas college focuses very little on the aspect of getting a job, which is super weird because the only reason people graduate, yes, is to become knowledgeable, but ultimately to get work and start getting paid for the things that they're doing, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So my final question is, what's your favorite book and why? Because at the I said that we're big on books and we love books and reading. So
I have too many favorite books. Can I mention multiple?
Yeah, feel free. Go for it.
Okay. So it depends where you are in life. That's the important thing about books, and what you need at that time. So sometimes it's motivation you need. And you'll recognize that when you're feeling low, when you can't drag yourself out of bed, when you can't produce content and you need that willpower, and you can't say no to your friend who wants to hang out because you know you should be making the content, or you should be writing a blog, or you should be working on something. But you're just like, yeah, okay, fine. Let's go out. Let's hang out. For motivation and getting shit done, read 10X by Grant Cardone. Amazing book. One of the books that really changed my life. For software development, just soft skills of software development, and being more well-rounded, getting the kick in the ass, and then also kind of starting your own thing, like YouTube channels and things like that. Read Software Developer's Manual, Life Manual by John Sonmez.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually reading one of his books at the moment too, The Complete Software Developer's Guide, and I really find his stuff insightful. It's not just coding, it's also just your way of looking at things, and soft skills and everything is kind of combined into one. So it is.
Hell yeah. That was the reason my channel started, by the way. He was my hero. That's why my channel is called Clever Programmer. Sounds awfully similar to Simple Programmer.
Yeah.
And yeah, now I'm gonna have more subs than him soon, which is amazing because when I started, I had 0 and he was at like whatever subs. Yeah. And hopefully I'll get to meet him one day, and I still see him as my mentor, and I still respect him a lot. So that's the second book I recommend. If you want to become, financially more financially independent and have better ways of thinking about money and life lessons, read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Unbelievable book, completely will change your mind and how you think of money. Rich Dad Poor Dad, amazing book. 21 Sleeping Strategies, I think it's called. And that's a book that was another one that helped change my life because I started sleeping at 10 p.m. and I started waking up at 5:30 a.m. And the stuff that I got done by 10 or 11 a.m., I was already ahead of like 90% of the people in the world. And then I had the rest of the day to conquer everything. I'm 23 years old, and from the last few years, I've been hitting six figures doing software development. Now my business is hitting six figures, and hopefully next year we'll be hitting seven figures. So there's a sign that, some of it is successful and has been giving me good results. So that book is really good. And then a few other books that aren't coming in my head right now, but does that kind of answer the question?
Well, that's pretty well rounded. Three is a good number too, and I'll put the links to everything in the notes in the video too. Even to your cleverprogrammer.com is the site if you want to go there and check out what Qazi is doing.
Yeah,
so I think that's a lot of information for one day. That's really insightful stuff for my listeners and my audience. And yeah, I'd just like to thank you again for taking the time to talk to us today and to give us your insights into how you've come about creating such a great thing in the world, because people are actually doing more of what they want to do. That's what I've seen from Clever Programmer. People are coming there. They're also getting social skills. It's not just technical skills. They're getting both. They're getting a good balance. So yeah, thanks again for talking to us today.
No, thanks so much. This was unbelievable. This brings so much value. I want to be doing this actually more often, honestly. Like, this was freaking awesome. It's going to bring so much value to your viewers. Like, this was so good. I'm going to be watching this and getting value out of this. This is great. And I want to use this for Clever Programmer as well. Is that cool?
Yeah, it's cool with me. Perfect. So until next time on the next episode, have fun and enjoy the process.